Mononoke is such a hidden gem of an anime and one of my favorites of all time. It's not the most popular, but I love it for its avant-garde style, often containing pieces of classical art in its stylistic backdrop. And the way the people are drawn in this anime just thrills me. Same face syndrome, who? It's also an overall interesting take on horror anthologies, especially pertaining to Japanese folklore. Of course, there are tons of anime about that subject, but Mononoke presents both style and substance in its storytelling, and I really just enjoy it. I discovered it a long time ago and it has stuck with me ever since, especially the calm, sometimes unsettling protagonist Kusuri Uri. Created in 2007, Mononoke is an episodic tale that follows the exploits of the enigmatic main character Kusuri Uri, or the medicine seller, as he solves supernatural cases across the different time periods of feudal Japan. The anime is steeped in folklore, some of which are common and others not so much. Being a short watch at only 12 episodes, I highly recommend. One of the reasons this show is so interesting to me is the psychological aspect and how it plays into Japanese folklore. Kusuri Uri, or Uri-san as I'll be calling him from now on, must find the form, truth, and regret of the Mononoke to slay it with his sword-style exorcism. This makes for all sorts of interesting situations as he has to get the people affected by the Mononoke to give him the full story through his investigations and oftentimes very apt deductive reasoning. Truly a diva of the time period. But it's human for people to lie, forget, and obscure the truth, sometimes out of malice and other times for their own protection. It's up to Uri-san to basically weasel the truth out of them or for the humans to come clean on their own. Episodes 6 and 7 are one such pair of episodes that stuck out to me because they played more into the psychological aspects of the show, being less heavy on the horror. Episodes 6 and 7 are about a woman named Ocho and her circumstances after the murder of her husband and in-laws. But all is not what it seems, for under the red herring of a murder lies the Mononoke of the episode, the Nopperable. In Japanese folklore, the Nopperable is a mischievous yokai with no face of its own. It's largely harmless and is more of a trickster spirit than anything else. The Nopperable works by beckoning humans closer, where it terrifies them by revealing its face or lack thereof. Fun fact, the iconic creature No-Face from the Ghibli movie Spirited Away is a Nopperable, and his name is Kaonashi, meaning faceless one. You might be wondering why it's so interesting to me that there's a faceless ghost in these episodes. After all, Uri-san is just going to get rid of them like he does for all the other Mononoke we've seen so far. But the intrigue lies in who the Nopperable is, and that is Ocho herself. This reveal is the reason I wanted to make this video. When I said it plays into the psychological aspects, I wasn't joking. But before I explain, let's talk about the mother archetype and its inversion. For as long as literature has existed, the archetype of mother has been right there beside it, and why wouldn't it? First mentioned by Carl Jung, he states the mother archetype is one born from humanity's collective unconscious to represent a figure standing as the nurturing or caregiving parent and a baby's first contact with the world. Over the years, the archetype has grown to encompass not just literal mothers, but women in the story who play protective or nurturing roles over a character. She may also possess wisdom and intuition meant to lead the character on the right path. But what happens when the role of a mother takes a dangerous inversion? Enter the devouring mother. From the name, you can probably infer what it means. While a mother nurtures a child through love, wanting them to reach their full potential as any good mother would, a devouring mother, through overprotection and other means, seeks to consume the child, preventing them from becoming independent and inhibiting them from forming an identity of their own. The devouring mother metaphorically consumes her children through infantilization, guilt, and manipulation. She sees her children not as their own people, but as an instrument through which she can achieve self-actualization. These parents resist seeing their children as separate individuals and instead relate to them strictly on the basis of their own needs. Children of a devouring mother quickly realize they are here for their mothers, either to fulfill them in some way or work hard to achieve the goals they never could. And we see that in the way Ocho's mother treats her in the flashback. Her mother needs her to be a good child and marry well because it is implied she never got to. And so it is that on Ocho's wedding day, she does not actually see Ocho getting married. Who she sees is herself. And so, the Nopperable, a metaphor for identity, is the crux of the matter. When Uri-san recognizes that Ocho has lost her soul in an effort to achieve her mother's dreams for her. The episode is fraught with mask imagery, and the appearance of different masks throughout the episodes are also metaphors for identity. We start off with Ocho in jail, wearing a white kimono, a symbolism for a clean slate. And soon, she realizes she's not alone. Uri-san is there with her. The two converse and we find out she's in jail for killing her family, soon to be executed the next day, while Uri-san is there for disappointing a customer. Okay. We quickly learn that this prison is not real, but a symbol for how Ucho views her mind as a prison. Uri-san tells her such, that the mind can either be a prison or a fortress. After a round with a mysterious fox-masked man, who we first assume to be the Mononoke of the episode, Uri-san loses his face card. But if the man in the fox mask is not the true form of the Mononoke, then just who is he? My interpretation of this fellow is that he is one of Ucho's personas, one meant to protect her, an inner guardian, so to say, her anger. Your anger is the part of you that knows you deserve better. Ocho says to the foxman that he was the one who saved her over and over, letting us know she was able to get through the harsh treatment of her in-laws by viciously ruminating on killing them. The foxman even hands her the cleaver she would use to do her dastardly deeds. It's no secret by now that rumination and maladaptive daydreaming are symptoms of trauma. And so he asks her to marry him, and Ocho passively agrees. You can see she's the type of person that goes where the wind blows, so to say. Once again, all is not what it seems, as while they are about to get married, they are interrupted by a flashback of Ocho's mother on her real wedding day. The memory of her mother at her spiritual wedding completely destabilizes her mindscape, literally flipping it around. This is the presence of a devouring mother. Ocho's mother prostrates herself before the new family and thanks them for taking Ocho in. Rather than congratulating her daughter on her wedding, she talks about her family's legacy. Now she can finally hold her head up high at Ocho's expense. The whole thing reminds me of parents who talk about their children's accomplishments as if it were their own. I've certainly experienced my fair share of it. It's uncomfortable and awkward for everyone involved, except the parents talking. What follows after Uri-san fights the Foxmask man again is a dive into Ucho's mind to find the truth and regret of the Mononoke. And after finding out the Foxman is not the true form of the Mononoke, Uri-san binds it. This is symbolic since we have already established this particular persona as Ucho's anger. It's like tempering your anger before you speak. Anger clouds judgment, so they say. You can even see it quaking in anger when Uri-san begins reviewing Ucho's memories and later warns him about stepping into Ucho's heart, or rather, prodding her mind. A new play starts, and it's a review of Ucho's past, which brings up my next point of how her mother treated her. She states that Ucho looks just like her when she was young, and she would certainly marry into a prominent family because she's so beautiful. This is evidence of what Ucho's mother wanted for herself, to marry well. Ucho messes up on the koto, and her mother immediately begins berating her. As the young girl apologizes, Ucho's real self, the identity she was not allowed to form under her devouring mother's control, drifts away to play like a child would. Because the thing about devouring mothers is that to please them, you must murder yourself. It won't cost much, just your soul. This follows her into adulthood. Her wedding day, the scene from before, is shown again with full context. And Uri-san once again remarks on how Ucho was nothing more than her mother's tool. Ucho tries to protest this fact, as many children would when it's highlighted that they are nothing more than a means to an end. But before her eyes, just as when she was a child, her real self drifts away to play. As the truth and regrets are revealed, Ucho has a breakdown, pleading with her mother to listen to her. But the thing about mothers like this is they don't care what their child wants. They firmly believe their will supersedes yours. We watch Ucho's mother throw her to the wolves, an abusive family and equally abusive in-laws only repeat the cycle of torment. But the devouring mother has gotten what she wanted through her tool. What does it matter if Ucho suffers for a lifetime? The samurai's first wife hung herself, and the samurai was begged by Ucho's mother to take Ucho as his wife. Evidenced by how fast the news of the murder spread, it would be fair to assume that the first wife's death also spread with the same speed, meaning Ucho's mother knowingly sent her to someone who would abuse her. Even on the wedding day, Ucho's mother allowed the in-laws to talk about their daughter inappropriately. What kind of mother will allow their child's capability in the bedroom to be spoken about for the amusement of strangers? Though many of us can relate to our trauma being laid bare as simply a funny anecdote for our parents to tell at social gatherings. Even when the husband talks about how his money can get him as many women as he wants, it's uncomfortable, like he's already thinking about how to dispose of Ucho. The climax of the play comes in the form of the revelation when Uri-san asks Ucho who she killed. We see she killed no one but herself. To become a tool of her mother, she killed her will, her individuality, essentially herself and all potentials of the person she could have been. And so it is revealed that Ocho is the noperable, the faceless one, the one with no identity. A girl whose loss of self went so deep, she believed she was being saved by it. I'm going to theorize a bit here. When Uri-san talks about the Mononoke falling in love with Ocho, I believe it was a self-love. Her escaped identity trying to come back to her in some way. And to me, that was quite hopeful. Lots of people think they don't love themselves, but wanting better for yourself is self-love. Making a conscious decision to acknowledge you deserve a better life is a seed you plant. I related to this pair of episodes a lot, as will many other people, no doubt. It's an interesting look into a psychological phenomenon illustrated through fantasy. It's a powerful depiction of what happens when selfish people twist their roles in our lives to benefit themselves. Mothers, especially. It can cause a wound that runs so deep it will almost never scab over. I'm sure Ocho's mother justified herself by saying she was doing it to give Ocho a better life. And Ocho herself excuses her mother's actions by telling Uri-san about how her father's pension was lost, requiring Ocho to marry wealthy for a better life. The road to hell is paved with good intentions, and Ocho still endured so much to fulfill wishes that were not her own. A real mother would have seen how much harm she was causing and relented. So take care of yourselves in the best way you know how. Thank you for watching the video all the way to the end. This was tough to write as I've never done this before. If you like character analysis, subscribe and welcome to the channel. I plan to make more of these, though my output will be slow. Thank you and bye bye.